Hello there, and welcome to my channel. As you can see by the title of this video, today I am going to list you 5 K-pop concepts that I wished were more frequent in this industry. However, before starting the video I would like to tell you some things. First, some of these concepts I am going to talk about are not exactly named like what I named them, but for it to be easier to talk about them, I decided to name some of them. Sometimes they may be a subgenre from an already very used concept, but since it's so distinctive from the mother concept, I will treat them as different concepts. Also, I would like to tell you how this video's format will be. I will start by revealing the concept I am going to talk about, then give 2 or 3 examples of K-pop songs, mostly title tracks, so that more people can get a sense of what my idea is, since a concept goes beyond the song itself. Since the MV, the aesthetics and even the choreo of a song also contribute for its conceptual idea, and proceed to explain what differentiates the respective concept from others. This introduction is already way too long, so let's start the video already. From the concepts on this list, this has to be the most frequent, and I am glad that there are at least a good number of songs with this concept. However, I find those still too little for the perfection this concept is. This concept seriously needs to blow up because the songs that come from this concept are always so good. Pink is the best example that I can think of to explain to you how this concept works. Their last 3 releases, I'm So Sick, Yoonyoung and Dumdrum, are all elegant concepts, and they execute them perfectly. This also shows how versatile this concept can be. If I were to describe this concept, I would say it's a concept that treats problems like breakups and toxic relationships in a very mature but yet elegant way, therefore the name, without being too serious like mature concepts, but also being more serious than a girl crush concept. It also exudes superiority and confidence over the subject of the song, but really smoothly, which is different from how girl crush concept does it. The melody of these songs usually is really pretty and gives a kind of expensive feeling. The MVs are really aesthetically pleasing too, since it's an elegant concept either way. Basically, what I am trying to say is, if the person is stuck in a bad relationship, the elegant concept will make the person leave that relationship like it was nothing, but at the same time showing it was hard for the person. However, the person never lost their composure and always remained certain about their actions. I would also love to see more boy groups approach this concept though. I think this one is self-explanatory. The song and MV just exude magical energy. I think this concept has a really good way to portray the message of the song in a really original and different way. I think people don't see the potential in this concept, but look at the duality of the songs I gave as an example. You can go for a very bright magical concept or a totally different dark magical concept. Also, I think this kind of songs can be very versatile with the instrumentals they use. In these concepts, the MVs usually are really good and are able to fusion reality and relatable experiences with fantasy, and they are really good at portraying a story that explains the meaning of the song. If I were to point out a characteristic sound from these magical songs, it would be the sparkles that appear during the song. It's such a nice effect that represents the best the magical feeling. With the amount of things you can do to this concept to fit the group sound and narrative is amazing, and I seriously think K-pop companies should give this sound more opportunities, because it's something that easily any group can pull off, due to how versatile this concept can be. I really think that Oh My Girls, the 5th season, and Tomorrow by Together's Runaway are great examples of this concept and how versatile it can be. Also, can we talk about the aesthetics of this concept? Certainly, are top tier. However, I do think that this concept needs a lot of details to work well. Just like I said, the aesthetics of the MV, but also the choreography and the lyrics need to be well thought, or the concept will just fall flat. But that can be said to many other concepts, and it's also something that agencies are perfectly capable of. In fact, they certainly are already used to that. I would like to mention a subtype of this concept, which would be the black magic concept, or witchery concept, if you prefer it that way. And I must say I really love it too, and songs that fall into this category would be Loveless's Obliviate and Purple Kisses Punzona. Okay, hear me out. I know you guys and gals must be confused, but I think you are already having an idea of what I am trying to say here after the examples. To put it simple, an ironic concept is what seems to be a fun and upbeat song, is in fact a very evil and twisted song. In terms of the song itself, the melody of the song is usually very bright and upbeat, but the lyrics are dark and sometimes evil and sad, becoming a total contrast with the melody that it is accompanying it. The choreography usually follows the melody and tends to be very fun and light. The MV, on the other hand, starts off as a pretty bright MV. Like any other brighter song MV, the set is very colorful and innocent. However, it starts getting twisted when not so innocent things start to happen on it, but the MV passes them as something innocent either way, without any kind of change in the tone of the MV. And the MV proceeds to continue with this kind of camouflage, where they hide horrendous acts as silly pranks. I think you are getting the idea of what I am trying to say with the examples I have given. With the case of Russian Roulette, starting with the most obvious, the MV shows exactly what I said. There is no doubt that the music video is very cheerful and colorful, especially for a music video of Red Velvet trying to kill each other over and over. Yep, that's right, they are trying to kill each other throughout all of the MV, but don't you worry, it's just a silly joke, right? But you can totally see that these deaths are no jokes, but the tone of the MV never changes, and it acts as a camouflage for these twisted acts. They are even dancing kind of cutely throughout the MV. But these hidden messages really connect themselves with the title of the song, don't you think? For such an upbeat and cheerful song, Russian Roulette as a title doesn't seem very fitting, right? For those of you who don't know which kind of game Russian Roulette, I will give you the definition that Wikipedia gives, but viewer discretion is advised. Russian Roulette is a potentially deadly game of chance in which a player places a single round in a revolver, spins the cylinder, places the muzzle against their head or body, the opponent or themselves, and pulls the trigger. If the loaded chamber aligns with the barrel, the weapon will fire, fatally or seriously, injuring the player. Yeah, not the brightest game out there to name your music after. The lyrics go surrounded by a sharp secret, behind a veil deeper and deeper, hush, aiming for your heart. Now this place is the color of a dark night, even the shadows get lost. And I don't know about you, because this can be interpreted in many ways, but given the context we are given, I tend to believe this verse is supposed to represent someone who gave in for love and lost their sanity in the process, and now is so obsessed with that love that isn't afraid to use any kind of means to make their loved one feel the same towards them. They literally say they are going to aim for their lover's heart now, which is preceded by a sharp secret behind a veil and preceded by a verse that says their heart is as dark as the night, that not even shadows get along with it. Also, we have these lyrics, oh you're always like, love is game you say it's light and easily enjoyed, why do you keep saying these bad things trying to avoid me, at the beginning of the song, but towards the middle of the song, they change to oh you still say, love is game you tell me, but your voice is shaking past the playful eyes I see you, not knowing what to do, which further grounds the idea that this love game is getting out of hand, and by the end of the song Red Velvet call themselves I'm your sweet Russian roulette. Note, when I say Red Velvet, I am referring to the poetic subject of the song, not exactly Red Velvet the girls themselves, obviously. This segment is already too big, so I will just state that the same logic can be applied to CLC's Devil, a cheerful song with a bright MV, where the members are actively damaging one another, and by the end of the MV, the set becomes more of a horror concept song, but the girls still act innocently, and the song continues with its bright sound. Also, the song is literally talking about them calling their inner devil out, so not the brightest lyrics there. In conclusion, ironic concepts are iconic and need to happen more. Both of these songs did pretty good and are one of the most successful songs of the respective groups. Another concept that I probably just invented now, I know, but bear with me. First of all, I think I need to address that this concept can be considered as a subtype of the more general dark concept. Do not confuse this dark concept with the concepts that are dark, as in their type of sound or themes. It's like we have the dark concept, and then all of the concepts that exist can be more dark or more bright, including the dark concept itself. However, I find this concept very specific and different from the normal dark concept to not be considered as its own concept. To describe this twisted concept, I would say it's a concept that contrasts an angelical, innocent and pure sound and story with an also dark, mischievous and hopeless story and sound. This may sound weird and undoable in a song, but just look at the examples I just gave. Both include a section where you can see a more of a pure and hopeful sound, just to be crushed by a harsh reality, and the songs play out with this duality of ideas. ONEUS's song is literally called To Be or Nor to Be, quoting the famous phrase from Shakespeare's Hamlet, symbolizing the need to do a very hard choice. In the ONEUS's case, is to maintain or forget their previous relationship that brought them much happiness, but also ultra despair. To resemble that, these songs have three kinds of sounds, a hopeful, angelical and innocent one. A hopeless, aggressive and dark one. And a mix of the two. I can't express how much these concepts intrigue me with their originality and complex and deep message. They are really hard to pull off. It's really hard to mix these two different sounds without making the song sound messy, and it all needs to be really well thought out, and I can see why many companies don't want to go with this concept, way harder and more exclusive than the magical concept, but I would love to see more of this in K-pop. I really love them so much. It wasn't for nothing that To Be or Not to Be and Can't You See Me were two of my favorite songs from 2020, and I really recommend them to you. One thing interesting about this concept is that the MVs are always so interesting and visually pleasing, with their dark aesthetics. let's finish with a concept that I didn't make out a name for. I think this one is also very self-explanatory. It's a song that gives you the creeps and gives you a shiver down your spine, but in a really good way. There aren't many K-pop songs that are like this, but those two examples are really good and show that this concept has its own variety within it. But Nature's Girls is really something from a horror movie. It's the best definition for a horror concept. You want to know what a horror concept is like? Watch Nature's Girls and you'll find out. These songs are known for their ominous and mischievous melody, filled with unpleasant sounds, but in a good way, in an exciting way, and their dark lyrics. Also, these MVs tend to be so impressive. I am still not over how good Nature's MV is. They are so captivating, incorporating many horror themes and sets. And let's be real, horror stories tend to be really impactful. However, I do believe that catching these horror vibes in a song is really hard, and that must be why there are almost no songs with this concept, or at least for title tracks, and the MVs tend to be really dark, which would make them not suitable for everyone. But still, I can't take my mind off how cool these concepts really are, and I really hope to see more of them come to reality. Piri by Dreamcatcher and Girls by Nature are songs that I never knew I would love so much, because I am not an horror genre fan, but I find it always interesting when they come up with songs of this concept. Another great example of this concept in K-pop is the performance that Very did for their song Photo on Road to Kingdom. Although the original song and MV are already in the horror concept territory, this performance takes it to the next level and turns the stage into a literal nightmare come true. I will leave the link down below, but just see this part. Well, this is the end of this video. It's something new from my usual content here on my channel, so I hope you like this change. Please don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and maybe consider subscribing. If you, my viewers, really like this video, I may do a part 2. But for now, this is all, and I hope you all enjoyed it. See you next time.
Fly me to the moon, 나를 데려가